Hey y'all, Instinct Survival is coming in again with another Two Tip Tuesday. This time we'll be talking about a cup and a saw. First things first, today is Saturday, rivalry weekend after the Thanksgiving break, if you will, and today is Iron Bowl weekend. So rivalry weekend and Iron Bowl. For those of you that don't know, you can look it up, or I can just tell you it's Alabama versus some, as Bear Bryant put it, the cow college on the other end of the state. So that'd be Auburn. Sorry, Dina, that's the way it goes, right? So hopefully it's going to be a good game. That's what I really boil it down to. I always want Alabama to win. However, I want a good game. That's what I want every freaking year, a good, solid game, regardless of the outcome. Now, again, outcome, I want Alabama to win, period. No mistaking what I want. So, oh, yeah, and tomorrow's my 50th birthday, so I really, really, really want it. Anyway, it is Thanksgiving weekend, so happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and thank you for all you do. Thanks for your support, your likes, comments, subscribes, shares, and the list goes on and on and on. That's what I get for talking after I drink something, so pardon me, caveman style, right? Anyway, today we're going to be talking about, had a lot of questions of, Bill, why did the cup fail in your video Spirit of the Woods challenge, which knocked me out, by the way, and that's okay. I fully agree with that. Mine leaked like a sieve, and in fact those were Dwayne's words. Mine leaked like a sieve. What happened, what went wrong, and why did the rest of them hold together, whereas mine did not? So we're going to go through that and how to make one of these. Better ways to make cups, just saying. And then the dog wants to go in. And then you probably saw at the opening my Bucksaw in working transit, and you could hear it squeaking because it needs oiling. This is more of an art piece for me. It's a symbology to me. It was something I didn't know from the onset of the advanced survival class. I learned it very quickly because, well, that's pretty much the first thing I had to learn. And then the other part was this actually got us through this one, and the one that that my partner put together actually got us through. So Mitchell, I know you're not watching, but hey buddy, thank you for your help in that, and thanks to all the instructors for the Pathfinder School because of that. Anyway, so we're going to go through how to make one of these and talk about the usefulness of it. All right, so we did talk about before the saw blades themselves, why you would use them, and one of them was the Bucksaw, and that was this video right here. There we go. And in that video, we talked about making a Bucksaw in here, but we didn't go through the process, we didn't go through why, we didn't go through anything other than, hey, you might want to carry a saw blade, so there's that. Last but not least, why is this a mantelpiece versus something useful in the woods? Because it's designed to be broken down, and it's designed to be used in the woods if I have a saw blade. This one again represents something that I went through, pains and everything else, and when I actually put it up on the wall, I usually pin my advanced patch right up under here, just for that memory, that thing that's stuck in my brain, because it was something that I had to overcome in order to pass the class. So there's that. All right, guys, so what we're going to do is we're going to reposition. We're going to go through the different pieces, parts, and all that jazz. I'm going to have another cup of coffee, and then we'll get started. Roll Tide. All right, so for the saw, what we're going to need is a couple of things, right? First you need your knife, then you need your cordage, and then you need, of course, a saw blade. So I went ahead and cut or pre-cut the pieces I needed. This is actually from a maple tree. The original one was a poplar. Now in this, what I have done is I went ahead and created one, and what you need is a round reduction on both ends, and this is actually going to be for your cordage so you can get it tight. This piece, this loop if you will, or this round if you will, so remember the tri-stick, we did a round in there, that's what this is for. And the reason being is because we're going to duplicate the other handle, and then we're going to actually put a piece in the middle, if you remember seeing that on the original one, right? This round, this piece in the middle, this cutout if you will, is so that the points go into the edges there. All right, that's how that works. And then we need a smaller stick for tightening. Now this is a little long, and that's okay, we'll cut it down. I just wanted to get more than not have enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get the other one cut out just like that. But what you're looking for in a size, right, in a particular size, is something that's comfortable to your hand, right? You know you're going to be working on this hard. I know that this is probably not going to be the side that I'm going to be using often, but this one is, because it's smoother overall. And so when I go in and grip, I know that I'm going to be able to grip this without having to worry about the blister on my hands. Now, I'll take these down just so that they're easier to use, but that's what I need, is those pieces so it's easy for me to grab hold and move going back and forth. The other piece that you have to worry about the size of things is actually this one right here. What you want to do is you want to make it about the same length as your blade, maybe a hair shorter. So this one is about a 1/2 inch shorter overall. And the reason being is because, remember, it's going between the sticks, whereas this goes and sticks out on the outside of your two handles. Okay, so that's why you want this one just a little bit shorter, but you want it to be at least that long, right? And the way I look at it is I want it 1 inch longer than the blade itself. So you can see the cutting here and the cutting here, it's 1 inch longer than that cut is what it boils down to. All right, so what I'm gonna do is, like I said, I'm gonna finish out this other round, this other handle, if you will, and then what we'll do is we'll start assembling it. I'm gonna take the round, and then I'm actually gonna taper the 2 ends off of the middle beam. And then what we'll do is we'll come back together. So let's talk about measurements. I've cut out the other piece of wood, but how do I know what I needed to cut or not? This, not gonna happen. I'm not toting another thing in the woods. Now I can use a string, that's fine, but let's look at the logistics of it, if you will. So I have my piece, we know it's hand width. I didn't measure how wide or what the diameter was of it. Secondly, remember just about 1 inch in on both ends? Yeah, guess what? If I put my knuckle there, that's close enough. And you'll find that with a lot of these projects, it is close enough, because you're not looking at exact science, you're looking at functional tools. Well, what about this one, Bill? Well, if you look here, I've got my knuckle in here, that's not quite wide enough. If I take my hand in there and then put about another 2 fingers, that's usually pretty close. What I'm looking for typically is this though. From the ring at the bottom to that cut, I'm looking for a hand width apart. That's fingers spread out, it's about 6 inches. Now, different hands, different sizes, blah, 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 but that's about 6 inches. I know that for a fact actually works great, because what I want is I want to be able to cut larger logs with this. Otherwise, I could just use my little pocket saw on my Swiss Army knife, right? So we're looking at about 6 inches from ring reduction to the kerf, or to the cutout, if you will. All right, kerf is the wrong word, so the cutout would be the right one. So again, about hand width apart, fingers spread. I know, based off of me measuring, I know that's about 6 inches anyway, which leaves this to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 4. Well, but Bill, how do I know how long this needs to be? Well, we've already talked about this. Remember, this one is the same length, about 1 inch, a knuckle, past what the blade ends are. Okay, so we know that. Well, that gives us the length of this one. Well, what about this one, Bill? What about the paddle that we're going to use? Okay, well, if need be, you can make it a little longer than that, but it's going to be about 6 inches as well. So just as a by the way, I made mine a little bit longer just because that's the way I like it, but 6 inches works just fine. And you'll see when we actually do it up, I can cut off that 1.5 inches right there, not a problem. All right, so we've got all our pieces together. One of the things I forgot to mention is we do need these. We need 2 of these, and these are actually going to be just big enough to go through the holes at the end of your saw blade. Now, remember in the other video, you could have actually done it with rings. You can do it that way, that's fine, but this is one of those where I'm looking at, no, minimum, this is what we got, is we only have a saw blade. The other thing that I've done to these, just as a by the way, is I've actually taken and cut, I actually split batoning with my blade. And what I did is I did it 90 degrees to where this is. So basically it's going to go along that specific piece of wood. The reason being is because your blade is going to go along that piece of wood, and so when it all comes together, you'll see how it goes. So now the next step is, one of the other things we have to have, cordage. Got to have cordage, got to have a blade, and you got to have a blade. So there's that. So let me rearrange. I'm going to reposition the camera down so that you can actually see top and get in closer and find out exactly how we're putting this together. All right, so the first thing I've done is I've actually slid this in, and I want to kind of countersink those teeth. I don't want the teeth to be in there. I'm hoping that y'all can see that. Oh yeah, plenty of room. All right, so I want to countersink the teeth so that I don't just accidentally catch it, right? So I want it to be above, well, above from this direction, but below that line. Then what I do is I go to the other side, and we do the same thing with the other side, noticing that I've got one circle or ring or hole or whatever you want to call it on the outside. And then I take my Made in Chinese sticker and I cover it up on the other side. Made in China. It's in China. And then what I do is I actually take and give it a little extra whack just to make sure. And what that has done is sunk it in there so I don't have to worry about it. Okay, so now those two pieces are together, and you'll notice I've got them bowed in a little bit. The next part is actually making and taking this part, if you will, the cross beam, and putting it, well, across, right? So that's how you do that. Now, there's a couple of different options to do first. It may be that this is what we want to look at in putting that cross piece in. This is where your work is going to be cut out for you. You want to make sure this sits right. You want to make sure the angles are right. And you may have trimmed one side and checked it, like you just saw me flip that over, to where it fits better a different way. That actually fit better the other way. I see how it's sitting in there nicely, nice and kind of square. And then now I can go in and put in my pegs. Now, once I put in my pegs, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tighten this whole thing up by putting in string. Or cordage, if you will. Before we do that, one of the things I don't want to happen is I don't want the split from where the blade sits in to go deeper. That's why we have the ring reductions. So in the ring reductions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a piece of cordage. There, I'm losing my pieces. I'm going to tie a piece of cordage around, and all I'm doing is tightening. Nothing fancy, nothing, extravagant. I'm just tightening this down to prevent it from splitting out and preventing that blade to coming down and again losing my handle. So let me go in and do that for both sides, and then we'll come back and we'll go ahead and put in the rest of it after that. Okay, so you can see I've got my pieces already tied off. All I use is a Canadian jam knot. Not a big deal. not a big deal. Anyway, all I'm trying to do is, again, keep it from splitting out. We've got our centerpiece in, but you'll notice it's just kind of laying there. It's not doing anything. The reason being is because of this right here. So I'm going to do another Canadian jam knot. You can use any knot you want to that's going to hold, is what it boils down to. I think on the original one I did a trucker's hitch because it worked really well. So there's that. And all I'm doing is put it in the reduction, right? We're just put it in the reduction, tying it down. Bill, how much cordage do you use? Well, that's a great question. I don't have an exact number, but I can venture to say it's probably about 6 foot. How do you know, Bill? Well, again, I don't have a tape measure out here, but I am 6 foot tall. It's about from head to toe how tall I am. So that's how I know. All right. The reason I use so much, lovely, the reason I use so much is because I want to have the ability to tighten up the pieces and bring this inward. Okay, the overall goal and what makes this work is these pieces can be straight up and down, and that's fine, but what I need them to do is to start coming in and pushing out on the edges of those blades, okay, or on the edges of the blade itself. That little ditty just cost me a little bit of time. That's all right. Speaking of time, should take you about 30 minutes if you want to do that. Push this back down in there. There we go. Fantastic. And one little thing, or one little trick you can do, an extra tip if you will, that you can do is you can put you a notch, just kind of a rounded notch in this, and what that will do is actually give you the ability to set those toggles. There we go. Set those toggles so that you don't have to worry about them slipping out. It's kind of what it boils down to. All right, so let's try this again, putting it all back together. Now that I've got all my pieces in and ready. Oh, hey, guess what? This flipped on me, so let me spin it back again. No, I had it right the first time, Bill. Thank you. Oh, there we go. I didn't have this spun around enough. All right, so now comes the ta-da, right? So we're going to take this. We've already put our knot in here. We're going to go around the end and tight and around the end. I'm going to the inside because I want that knot to keep it from slipping out. and then back again, and then hopefully, which it doesn't, if I'd have gone a little bit further, probably about 6'6" maybe, I'd have had another round to go all the way around it and then tie back into this jam knot. Since I don't, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just tighten it up and then tie it off here at this other end. Now this is where I usually lay it all on the ground. However, for this video, I didn't. I'm not gonna. It's one of them things. So what I'll do is I'll just take and bring it in there, pop it in there, tighten it down, wrap it around one more time, and then run it back through. That is not a knot, by the way. All I'm doing is getting this, it's tarred bank line. I'm just getting the tarred bank line to bind on itself and make sure it's not going to slip out. So when this tightens down, all this will start snugging up and I won't have to worry about it. Yes, I have a little tag in, not a problem, or working in is what it is, and then I won't have a problem. So great, all the pieces are together. Now what? So I take my flapper, this is what I call it, a flapper. I don't know what the technical name of it is, and slide it between the cords, and then I just start tightening it up. Okay, you're going to put it at an angle to start with, and all I'm doing is just spinning it around and around and around and around and around. Now let's talk about the length on this. Again, the length, I have it a little bit longer than 6 inches, because I want it to be able to hit here and stick up above the cordage itself. So once I do all this, what's going to happen is if I let this go, it's going to go back that way. So you can see I'm just bracing it on my hand. I'm just going to go back that way. So I want it to catch on that cross beam, if you will. All right, so how do I do that? Well, that's easy. I just slide it down in there and it's caught, and we have us a saw. Congratulations, you have made a saw. Bill, what kind of wood did you use? This is maple. Doesn't matter as long as it's something that is durable. So now I can go in, I can start cutting, and I am good to go. Made a Bucksaw. Nice. What you're going to want to keep check on is these pieces here, your cross beam. You'll notice how it's sliding a little bit there. So now we're looking at tricks, if you will, maintenance, if you will. And what I would do is just kind of push that in. There we go. And what you will notice that when you start cutting is it'll have a tendency to go off square. So it'll go all like that, right? You may have to straighten it out. You may have to tighten up your cross piece. You may have to tighten up. You may have to do, it's maintenance on a saw. No difference than anything else. But you also heard the other one squeak like crazy when I cut at the beginning. And the reason being is because it's old, right? It's dried out wood that's just been sitting there. Oil it up. That's why we didn't take it apart and put it back together, is because I didn't know what was going to happen. I trust the piece of wood. What I didn't trust is the ability to use it again. So there's that. But Bill, what if I want to just buy one as opposed to this? Hey, great question. Nick Stoll, I know Nick, I know Allie. They put together a great piece of kit that folds down in a bag. Very good. I'll try to put the link down below. Stoll Outdoors, but Nick Stoll. Just tell him I sent you, or don't. I don't care. Either way, I don't get anything from it. Great, great product. In fact, I believe they also sell them at Self-Reliance Outfitters. So he's got a deal with Dave there. So, okay, there's that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at that cup, and we're going to deconstruct the cup, bushcraft cup that I made. Okay, so we're going to deconstruct this cup. And this is, you know what, I'm not even sure what kind of wood it was. I think it's poplar. Which is why I was frustrated, but then again I started cutting into it. I'm not real sure. It was just a piece of wood that it was given to me. So there's that. And that was actually the first problem, if you will, is you need to use a softwood for this. Again, there's many more ways to go in and utilize or create a cup or a drinking instrument or a container, if you will, but as you can see with this one, this is what it looks like. Nice and square on the inside. A, B, C, D puts me in perspective of what piece goes where. People do lines up and they do them on the bottom, and that's fine. I've actually got a wedge in here to tighten it up, and you can see the big freaking gaping hole in it as well. So let's actually break this down and actually talk about what happened, what we can do to improve it, and again, your tips for what we needed to do. Keeping in mind that each one of these tight tight pieces are just that, they're tight. Now you'll see they're loose now because I actually let this dry out for several days because I was just frustrated and didn't want to even touch it. So trust me, this has been one of those things where it really truly bit me as far as my mental game, if you will, the frustration just alone. Anyway, and it has, you know, yeah, I know it was a competition, but it has nothing to do with it. It had to do with the fact I couldn't do something. So overall goal, right? They wanted you to do it with a Swiss Army knife. If you don't have one, that's fine. It's just it was just part of the hey, try it this way. Now the breakdown was this. I took and split a piece of wood into 4 pieces. Then I took and sawed for a stop cut. Remember what stop cuts are. I stop cut here all the way across in the same area, fully across. That's the way it went. Now in doing that, what I did is I then took my Swiss Army knife and came up to the top and gave about 1/4 to 1/2 inch on each piece and split it down. Okay, just like I said, 1/4 to 1/2 inch and split it down on each piece. What this told me to do is now, based off of my ABCD, right? And here's the way I did it, right? Circle ABCD. That was my nomenclature. That's not how you have to do it. That's just the way I did it, right? ABCD. And this is actually from the 63 projects that you can do from with a Swiss Army knife. It's actually a wood carving book. It's really cool, really good book. Probably will end up buying it, but this is one of the projects in it. And so again, one of the things is doing this with soft wood. So here's B, which lets me know it goes here. Here is D, which lets me know it goes underneath B. And all I'm doing is putting the pieces back together. And so you can see the inside here, right? All shavings and now hair in it. So you can see I've put it back together, and you'll see some of the gaps here. So one thing is I want to get it wet in order to make sure that stays together. I could actually soak these individually in a nice container and then put it all together. This one's back to A. So there's that. And what you're wanting to do is make sure that it comes together that way. And then last but not least, in this case, C. I'm putting it together like a puzzle. You heard it snap together because there's some notches in it. Beat it down to where it's there. And then what you do is you put your cordage on there to tighten it up. All right. I put a piece here, 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 and here. And the reason being is because that should be enough. One of the guys actually put a toggle in so that he can continue tightening it. And that's the way to go. The thing to remember about this is that what happens is wood swells when wet. Okay, that's great. Meaning that it will tighten up the gaps that you have. However, it may not fill the holes that you have. And you can see how by trimming this down a little bit, I actually put a bigger hole in it, which is why there was a wedge to try to fill that hole. That was mistake number who knows how many. Right, there's mistakes in how this was done, and this is actually my second one. Now in this, again, because it's a soft wood, I can go in and it should swell, and they recommend that you actually swell it for about 2 to 3 hours. I did it it was wet wood, and I actually swelled it for about another 30 minutes. Probably could have swollen it more. The issue is, and what I know would have happened is, regardless of how much, this would not have filled in. Can I fill it in with resin? Absolutely. Can I fill it in with epoxy? Not necessarily. If you do it on the outside, yes, because then you're going to drink from it. Remember that. So you have to be very, very cautious about what you put in there. If you're in the woods, you're not going to have an epoxy, but you are going to have pine resin. Great idea to put it in there. Can I put pine pitch glue? Yes, not a problem. Put it in there, let it work, and then tighten it up, and then dunk it, right? And you're going to dunk it for anywhere between 3 and 4 hours. So that's the deconstruction on this, but it's also the construction so that you can see how this was made. I'm going to pull B back out so you can see the inside again, so that you can see I have a ledge in here. And I actually made a quiver out of agave doing this exact same method. But the difference is I only split it in half, right? So I actually scooped out the inside of the pith for the agave. No, I had it right. The agave plant. And then put it back together with sinew. In this case, again, easier ways to do things, birch bark probably being one. But that's, this was the challenge, right? It was fun, it was challenge, frustrating as crap, but this is how it is set up. Now, keep that in mind. Hey guys, I urge you to go in and do something like this. Go outside your comfort zone. Find out what you did wrong. Get outside and do something regardless of what it is. So there you go. What it boils down to is trying something different, getting out of your comfort zone and utilizing some of these tips. Get in the woods, get in your backyard, go somewhere. Get it done. Even if it's making something to hang on the wall that helps you out. Better ways to do things, improvements, post them up. I don't care. It doesn't bother me a bit. One of the improvements I got was actually putting that notch in here for these pins, for the toggles, if you will. That's something that I didn't learn about originally. That's something that I did with trial and error. Even if you go and hang this up on your wall, that's okay. Try it. See how you like it, because it boils down to later in life when you start looking at different things and, oh, hey, you know what? I need this, therefore I know how to create it. Is there a better way to do a cup? Absolutely. However, I took it as a challenge. Number one, it was a challenge. Number two, can you do it with your Swiss Army knife? Because of that, I wanted to be able to do something different. I wanted to use the saw. I wanted to use the blade. I wanted to be able to make something that would hopefully work. It didn't. I started deconstructing at that point, realizing here's what improvements can be made over a period of time. We talked about those little tips in there and how to improve that cup. So what it boils down to is being able to take that thing, whatever that thing is, one of the tips, something you learn from another channel, and going in and doing it. Get into the yard and go in and do it, or get into the woods. Hey folks, that's what it boils down to. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for your likes, your comments, subscribes. Hey, don't forget to hit that bell notification, because that gets you the notifications prior to even seeing it on Facebook, if that's where you're watching it from. And don't forget to share. I really appreciate it when y'all share it out. It means a lot to me, because it actually helps increase the channel and increases the algorithm, if you will, from YouTube. Does it give me a lot of money? Guys, if you think I'm making buku money out of this thing, not it. Not even the goal. The goal is to actually share what's in my brain, and I mentioned this in one of the first ones, sharing what's in my brain to other people, so it doesn't just stay locked up in this melon, if you will. Anyway, guys, as I get older, it's just one of those things. I want to share it with everybody. Go and do something. Get out of the house and go and do. Until then, use your instincts to survive. Thanks for watching. Roll Tide. Roll Tide. Y'all are going to see this on Tuesday and go, okay, Bill, what happened? No, I don't think so. I hope not. How about that? Take care.